what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch the polylines back on, and the urban detail, I want that to be switched off, and lamppost and everything else that I don't want, switch it off. Okay, fantastic. Okay, so yeah, what happened here is it pops up and it says you disabled or switched off a layer, but that layer is still active. It's just telling you what do you want to do, ignore it or just go and activate it or edit the menu. I would go back to edit, and then I'll just right click on the displayed layer. You can see there number 1 is there, it says block corners, but up here it says number 7 urban. So number 7 urban has a little star next to it. By right clicking block corners makes that the current active layer. Okay, that's a little gem. Okay. All right, now I've got that special message we all love so much, and you'll see I'll probably just continue onwards. Okay, I think Model Maker is localized in its error. Hopefully it's not a huge memory bug. Okay, so I need to now decide what am I going to label my land use areas, okay? Because the function I'm going to use now needs earth numbers and it needs hatching. Okay, and based on that, it will build a table for you. Okay, so this is the process. So you just go to CAD and you click on hatch and you click add, and then the last hatch or the last area is always in memory. So that's what you see there. If I replot, it's gone. It's actually automatically in a define area mode. Okay, so this is because of this dialog and this setting here that says auto new. So when I right clicked, it brought up the menu. If you didn't have that ticked, this is what you'll see. Every time you define an area, you'll first see this menu. And it's actually what I want right now. I want this menu because there's an option 2 where I can say use a polyline as the area. So think about your river type surveys and you've got thousands of little nodes along a river. If you've got it drawn out, you can just use that line and make that the area. Okay, so if you want to work out an area of some sort, if there's a polyline, use it. Okay, so I'm going to say that one, except is residential area or the residential zone 1, and we can change the color to whatever we want. So it's a residential zone 1. We don't have to show a border, but you could if you want to. That thing means it's filled in. You can also add opacity, which makes it shine through on imagery, which is great. And you can also assign the amount of fill, amount of ink to save when you print this. So it's a light yellow. So, or I can make it a dark yellow, but I can make it opaque by 50. So it's now a see-through yellow because of that tick box there. All right, for now, I don't care about that. Just know that this is a percentage, so 99 or 100% would be dark, and 20% would be light. Okay, we have to save ink. All right, and we'll say, okay. And then we go that one. So this is also zone 1. So I'll try to finish. Oh, that's not zone 1 actually. So now it's looking at the lines incorrectly, and I get to a point where I say, well, I'm not happy. Let's see. Yeah, that's what I wanted. But actually, I want that. That's typically a church zoning, whatever. So, and look at how those little dots are helping us now, because I can easily see where that line is tracking. So I can see it runs right around where that one was just there. That one is just that line segment. So it's weird, but okay. So this one I feel I have to click it out manually. Okay, so I'm going to change that one. That needs to be something different. And that one, we'll just make that residential zone 1 also. And let's do that one. And I leave that on purpose like that. You'll understand that when we get to that. Ooh, that didn't work. So cancel. Okay, so I'm going to skip ahead and just bring in the finished model for that. Okay, so I'm gonna throw out everything I've done up until now. I still have my desktop, so if I need to revert back to that, I can. And I'm just gonna go to the original file I worked with. Okay, so there's a thing about hatching. I can at any point go to hatching. I wanted to show this one where that is the road area. Okay, but the problem is that road area is actually closing this and that in as islands. So I need to exclude that. All right. But before I get to that, I just wanted to show you something. If I go to, I'm still in CAD, I'm still in hatching. So if I go to parameters and I click on pattern, I look at that one, it says there church zone 1. Okay. But yeah, there it is. I could also say get that, and it brings in all the attributes from another hatch to this one. So you edit one and get properties from another one. So it works like that with text also. You can get the direction of a text value, the height of the font, all sorts of things. And you can also use a set button to set this attribute somewhere else. Okay, so I'm gonna just illustrate that. So there's it, get and set parameters. So I can say get this, yeah, and set it there. Get that. Okay, so that's a few ways to work with this. I just need to quickly look at some of the residential zone 2. That is church. That's zone 2. So the color sort of church zone 1. So that's not right. And that's not right. So let's say this is the residential zone, whatever. Is there zone 4? Okay, let's just call it that. And this one, get there. Okay, that one, get there. Okay. Right. So fairly quick, I've sorted a lot of problems out. Now let's do that island hatch. Right, hopefully this all goes well. So we'll say add a new hatch, and we'll use our polyline. So I can see the polyline runs everywhere. Beautiful. We say accept, and we say this is a road, public roads. Yeah, and we want to change the color to something grayish and make it 10% intensity, and say okay. Okay, so there I've got my road, but I've got a problem now. This is not road, that's not road. So there's a button in our hatching says island. And I'll say add island, and the first click is to say the hatch I want to add an island to. So I have to click on my road area. Then it asks me to define the polyline where that island should be. Okay, there it's cut a nice area out of that. Okay, and then this one, that's also a, oh, no. First click is the hatch, second click is the area we want to cut out. There we go. So there I've created my islands. Okay, so what you can then do is just, not where I'm headed, but what you could just select here. So I'm selecting all my hatching, and then there's a report button. Oh, that's not the one I want now. It's actually the areas. It's actually info, that one. It's not quite one, might be a man ID. But look at this. It gives you the total area, the area excluding the islands, and the outside perimeter length. It tells me there are 2 islands of this area and the perimeter length of those islands. Tells us the layer, the color. After picking hatch, flash the area until key pressed, that which just happened. And I could copy this to CAD as information that I can use in a table or whatever. So if I have a hatch and I have islands on that hatch, it knows how the areas subtract from each other and so on. Okay. In Survey Maker, you will have a road earth and a road non-earth, and you will have areas subtracted from, and that all happens automatically, by the way. But it's similar to that. For those that do not use Survey Maker, we need to talk about it here as well. Okay, so that's just that. Okay, so now the final step would be to say, well, I've got now my hatch ID'd, okay, and I say show me only what is ID'd. Okay, so it's just the hatching. Okay, so that's step one of the recipe. We need our land zones hatched, and it needs to be ID'd. And the second thing we need is our urban numbers. So I'll go to my CAD ID menu. So it's CAD ID do ID, and I'll ID all the text on a layer. I know they're all layered, so hopefully yours will also be nice and layered. So earth numbers, and say okay. And only text, leave that on. Let's say okay. So now we have 138 text values ID'd, and we have 15 hatches ID'd. And by the way, if you had CAD lines that were ID'd, the plan length and the slope length of those CAD lines will also be displayed here. So if you need to tell a contractor how much curbing he needs to buy, you can get it just by IDing the CAD lines. Okay, and it's slope length and plan length. Just have to say that. Okay. Right, so we've got so that's a recipe. Hatching is ID'd, text is ID'd. And then we go in our hatch report button there, we created this little beauty, okay, which then goes and looks at all the different hatching. The layers they were on are all named here. It tells us the quantity, the number of urban numbers it found in that hatch. So it numbers them, it tells us the total and the proportionate area of all the hatching and how much it takes up in, and as a proportional percentage of the total area, what does it occupy? Isn't that great? Okay, so if you're a town planner, this would have taken you 2 hours to do. Okay, so then you can set your line parameters. I just need to change my line to something lighter. So I'm going to go for white. And the text parameters, you can set up the font and height of the text and whatever else you need to do. And you have to, if you change your font size by a lot, you need to change this text shift limit to sort of space the text. That's sort of a hit and miss. Okay, you sort of work out until you get the recipe. But there's this thing. If I select, let's just get this little bit zoomed in. If I select this open space zone and I press this highlight ID text, it shows me where they are and how they belong to that specific hatch. Now it's difficult to see like this because we don't really see the color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this before I go on with that, and I'm just going to tell the program you're allowed to ID the elements, but don't display the ID color. Okay, so don't display orange everywhere. So in my CAD, in my ID menu, there's a toggle that says show always, on or off. So if I click it, it's now off. So if I zoom in and out, it changes to colors again. Okay, so now it's still ID'd, but at least I can now see stuff on it. I like to put it to the side there a little bit. And then we press this hatch tool again, hatch and report. And then we can see by selecting it there, it tells us which urban and how many are there in that area. So if I go to public roads, for instance, and I press that button, it shows 1, 2, 3, and that. And that. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 texts. Yeah, so one of them are incorrect. And that's because the road earth, I on purpose attached the polyline to the text origin, and I picked it up as part of that road. So it's just a way to see, oh, maybe I did something wrong or the area isn't defined properly. But you could then probably go and fix it by just fixing the hatch area, and this is how easy it is. So this is the culprit, the road area. So we just go to edit and we just say node delete. So it's the node there that needs to be deleted, and that solves it. And we can also add additional nodes and bend it in any way we want. We don't have to redo the whole thing. Okay? And now everything's good, and we say report again, and we should see 4 there, and it's happy. So now I'll say copy to CAD and put it down. Now this excites me because it took me a long time to get this right. And it looks pretty good. Okay, so for land use areas, this is your go-to now. I don't think there's any other software that does this. Okay, then another thing that town planners need to know is how much percentage slope do we have? So in George or anywhere, Grabouw here, anywhere, or Camps Bay, those places where it's very steep, you can only build on slopes of a certain slope. So how much of the land is usable for this customer to do this development? So we need to do that analysis on his site to tell him this is what you have available to actually develop. Is it profitable or not? Okay. Or maybe a part of this should be green area, not for building stuff on. Okay. So for this to work, we need points and triangles. So I just want to check that my points, yeah, we have that. And then you go to this analysis tool, and we go to, now for this, you unfortunately need module 3 of Model Maker. Everything up until now, you need module 1, 2, and 6. That's it. And now I'm going into module 3. Okay. So if I go here to slope analysis, you can put in your slope band fill. Slope band fill means this is the bands that it's going to use. So you can either type it in percentages, starting at the flattest slope, going to the steepest slope. But as you do, the ratio slope will automatically be entered for you. Or if you think in ratios, type it in ratios, and the percentage will be automatically defined. Okay, so and then you can say, should the slope result be shown as a percentage? Should it be shown as a ratio or as an angle? Okay, and usually we would do it, we used to do it twice. So we would do a slope band fill report, and then we do a range report to see how much a percentage wise is in a certain slope area. But now we combine it into this little beauty. So I'll say copy analysis to CAD as a CAD or bitmap. And I think I'm just going to say OK, and yes, and OK. It gives us a header there. That word slope, I could have just typed in there slope use areas, usable areas, or slopes, or whatever. Okay. And then it says simple line legend, but then we also said no, put in a complete hatch legend, and that's new. Okay, that's what I wanted to show here. And then it comes up like this. Same tool, but now it tells us between 0 and 2% is 4.5 hectares, which is 67% of the whole site. Nice, eh? And it all accumulates to 100%, and the total area is 6.7. It's look, it's the whole area. So if you didn't want to go that far, you had to bring your points and your triangles back, or just place points on the perimeter of your site, get them to interpolate on the triangles, and delete triangles on the outsides. Then this would have been a topic specific area. And then you would just say copy to CAD, and then you would have that. So that to me was very important to get in there, because to do this manually took another 2 hours. Now it takes a minute. Okay, so that's fantastic.